Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts, we have the pleasure of driving the 1958 Ferrari 250 GT California Spyder. This is a long wheelbase version, and I'm living out my Ferris Bueller fantasies despite the fact that it's not a short wheelbase, because the car in Ferris Bueller is supposed to be a 1961 250 GT California. Now, this car is probably one of the most iconic Ferraris ever built, and when you see it, it just instantly strikes inspiration and excitement because it has a V12. The Colombo V12 is probably one of my favorite sounding engines. It has the best character of like any V12 I've ever driven, and it's a little guy. It's only 3 liters, or if you want to get really specific, it's 2,953 cc's. And it fits these cars perfectly because you've got this nice, long, luscious, torquey, sonorous V12 attached to one of the most beautiful Pininfarina designs ever penned. It's perfect, and I love it. And this one is fake. But it's not a fake Ferrari. It is a Ferrari. In fact, this is a 250 GT, or at least that's how it started its life. And it was transformed into this beautiful California. And the lore of this car is that the owner who commissioned this build owned a real 250 California. And that means that this was based on the real deal. He had the template sitting right next to it. And that means that every square inch of this car is pretty much dead on. It's really impressive. And I have driven a real California. They cost over $10 million. This can be had for about 1/10 of the price. So you're looking at under $1 million, the high 6 figures, to get a beautiful driver version that is still a Ferrari chassis, a Ferrari engine, and all the Ferrari bits that surround it. Up front, other than the giant hood scoop, the most iconic thing on these cars are the covered headlights and these Marshall fog lights, these rally lights. They look fantastic, and there's a switch under the dash that triggers those. Then you've got this gorgeous kind of shark mouth grille with the prancing horse inside. Chrome is your friend on a 1950s and 60s Ferrari. It doesn't look cheap or anything. It just adds class and beauty and elegance. And this kind of short windshield that curves around really suits the vehicle. Inside, well upholstered, nice leather seats, tan, of course, a decent and classy dashboard with Veglia gauges and a large steering wheel. Now, when we look at the Ferris Bueller car, that was a fakey-do. That was a very not real Ferrari that was made by a company, I believe, called Monda Designs, and it's just inside and out not quite it. It used a Ford power plant, and it did not use appropriate gauges. In fact, when they show the iconic odometer shot in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, they show Jaeger gauges. It looks like it came out of a late model Jag E-Type or something. It's just not it. So the other thing is that you'll notice this handbrake down here is on the inside of the driver compartment. It is not in the middle, as they show in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. These are the little things that car nuts go wild over when they watch movies like this. But even though we're looking at a non-original California, it has been done correctly. Something else you'll notice is that we've got these gorgeous knockoff wire wheels, but behind them are disc brakes. And as far as I know, I believe all the Californias had drums. Maybe late versions did, but I know that the real deal California that we had in the shop pretty recently had 4-wheel drum brakes. I'm thankful for disc brakes, not because the drums don't work, they're fine, but I just like the ability to have repeatable stops without fear of losing braking power or assistance. One of the nicest things about this car are these rear haunches. They kind of come up over, but they're not exaggerated. They're not giant Cadillac wings, but they definitely come up enough from the body that stand out and set it apart. Then you've got these gorgeous taillights that are just, they're simple things on this car that just look legit and elegant that you cannot replicate. They don't have to be over the top. However, the best thing about Ferraris of this generation are the tailpipes. You get these quad tailpipes, and they always protrude out from beyond the bumper with those quad tips. And that is a signature, and it's beautiful. Let's take a look at the storage space. Back here, we've got room for a proper spare tire. This is how you fuel the car. So you do have to open this trunk lid to get gas into it. So that means you got to be really cautious not to scratch your paint when you're putting that fuel nozzle in there. But loads of room back here. I've got all my equipment in here and such. And Yeah, it's great. As long as you don't, drip fuel in there, your clothes and bags won't smell like it. And under the hood, under here, this is where it gets really good, because this is where we have our 3-liter Colombo V12. We have 3 two-barrel carburetors feeding air into the cylinders, and I just can't get enough of the valve covers on these cars. And all the caps and covers and things, they're all just beautiful. Everything feels like jewelry under the hood of one of these things. And one of the things you'll notice too, this feels proper race car, because I don't see any filters here. We've just got screen mesh to make sure we don't actually accidentally drop nuts and bolts into the intakes. But if we come around this side, you get a bit of a look at that little fan down there with the radiator, and it's manual steering, a big old horn. It's the best, and we got to go take it for a drive, because that is why we're here today. So if you have memories of this car, or it's just something that has meant a lot to you because of the movie, well, we can talk about that along the drive. And make sure you comment down below what this car means to you, because for me, this is a big one. When we get in, the doors have these beautiful handles. I love that. We've seen that on kind of Zagato cars in the past, but that's the beauty of Italian design, is that a lot of stuff carries over from brand to brand, because, there's only so many players in that game. So you might see certain things that you recognize from a Zagato-built Lancia inside a Ferrari. One of my favorite things is the startup procedure of a 250. So we've got our key, we have our ignition. We are going to turn our ignition all the way. Then down here we have our fuel pump. And you're going to wait for that fuel pump to tick slower. So now we're in a good position. Add a little throttle, and then we push in to start it. And that's it. We're good. So over here, oil pressure, oil temp, and water temp. Now, I have been driving the car for a while. The water temp is finally starting to come up a little bit. I don't always trust these gauges. I've driven Ferraris where the oil temp just never comes up ever, and there's no possible way that's true. Because, if you've driven the car for an hour in the summer in heat, yeah, it's warm, but sometimes these are just wonky, and these gauges, maybe they don't start activating until they're way too hot or something. I don't really know. It's just my experience. So please don't comment that I'm driving this car cold. It is not cold, although it is cold out here. You may see some snow. We've been driving the car, so it is properly warmed up. Leather tunnel in here. Got our cigarette ashtray, very nice, and a tight little pedal box, but I can fit my feet in there just fine. Down here you've also got controls for an auxiliary fan, which I don't believe is fitted to the car. I'm not hearing anything, and our Marshall lights, the rally lights, and then you've got hazards over here and windshield wipers, which we will not be needing. Despite not having power steering, the steering is incredibly light. This big wheel certainly helps, but also I think just the balance of the car, wherever the weight is, gives you the ability to still steer the car really simply. most striking about this car is how easy it is to drive. There is very little effort to put in, and for a late 50s car, this gearbox is perfect. The engine delivers all the torque I need. I'm keeping the revs up just a little bit because it's happier kind of around 3,000 RPM than it is down low. But the brakes work great. Granted, they're not drums. And the steering feel is superb. There's just instant feedback. I can tell all the texture and granularity in the road. There's great force that comes back. I mean, it's all manual, so as you would expect, throttle response on these V12s dead on. And they tend to like wide open throttle or close to it more than just kind of dawdling along. You know, you got to give it the old Italian tune-up and just burn it up. But that's not to say that it's not tuned well. It still drives plenty fine around town. You don't have to just go full race car on it. But it doesn't wander. This is actually a classic vintage car that you would want to own, and you honestly, if you own this car, you couldn't stop driving it because it's fun, it's easy. You know, you drive like these old Jags, like the XK120s. They take a little bit of effort. They take a little bit of work to get around a corner. But this is just like heaven. This is my favorite thing. I'm completely in love with this shifter. It's like way tall, but it's right where you want it to be. It's kind of like that Carrera GT vibe where, sure, it's way up and it seems tall and in a weird spot, but it's because it's right next to the driver's hand. It's perfect. This gearbox is a 5-speed, so we should be able to be at highway speeds pretty comfortably out there. Oh. This is so choice. If you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up. Now this road isn't terrible, but it's not perfect, and the ride quality in this is phenomenal. It's comfortable. I mean, we're gonna go give this a nice bath the second we get home, but I'm shocked. I thought this was gonna chatter my teeth. This is a real GT car you can use, that you would want to use, and you probably just couldn't stop driving it. Ooh, the brake pedal. It's like pushing on a block of wood. You know, you just add force to it. It doesn't move very far, but it works. This is $1 million car. We're not taking any chances. Oh, it's perfect. Well, I'm late to pick up Sloan from school. Her grandmother died, and that's very unfortunate for her, but we're gonna go take this home, bring it back to Bond Group, and call this a really unexpected January experience. The 250 California Spyder, man. Not one I had on my bingo card right off the bat. I'm thrilled. I'm a happy boy. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. Ooh, this is the best part. You get to see yourself in the reflection. Oh my God. How great is that? Taking a picture of the wrong thing, buddy.